The story takes place in the province of Pavia in northern Italy. This area is famous for its shoe manufacturing industry, known as the capital of leather shoes. In the western part of Pavia province, there is a small town called Garlasco. It is about 40 kilometers from Milan, with many ancient churches and a peaceful lifestyle. The resident population is under 10,000 people. In 2007, a murder case that shocked the nation occurred in the town of Garlasco. The case went through multiple trials, but still left many mysteries and controversies. What happened in this town? Next, let's turn back the clock to August 13th, 2007. The day of the incident, August 13th, 2007, was a Monday. It was midsummer with scorching sunlight. At this time every year, the work of Garlasco residents becomes idle. Many people choose to go on vacation. The streets are deserted at this time, with only a few white pigeons leisurely foraging under the sun. That afternoon at 1:50, the local medical emergency center suddenly received a phone call. The call lasted nearly a minute. The man claimed his girlfriend was attacked at home and the situation was critical. The operator realized the seriousness of the issue, dispatched an ambulance, and notified the police. Soon after, police cars and ambulances arrived at the scene. The address provided by the man was 29 Giovanni Pascoli Street, but there is no number 29 on this street. After reconfirming, they learned the correct address was 8 Giovanni Pascoli Street. This is a 2-story house with a roof covered in reddish-brown tiles. Outside, there is a yard planted with flowers and grass. When the police arrived, the yard gate was open. Upon entering, they saw the house door ajar. The police pushed the door open and entered. On the ground floor, living room floor, there was a pair of white slippers, an overturned flower vase stand, and an upside-down plate. Near the stairs to the second floor, there were multiple bloodstains extending to the entrance door of the basement. Next to the door was a cabinet with a telephone and some miscellaneous items on top. There were many bloodstains on the wall. Following the traces on the basement stairs, they discovered a woman. She was wearing a pink nightgown, barefoot, lying face down with her head downward. Checks showed she had no signs of life. Her left hand was holding a few strands of hair, and there was residue under her fingernails. The basement light was still on, clearly showing large bloodstains on the stairs, a very gruesome scene. In the ground floor living room, the TV was still on. The sofa had a package of cereal and a package of biscuits. Upstairs in the victim's bedroom, the bedding was piled up, not yet tidied after getting up. The site survey did not find the murder weapon. Valuable items in the house were not missing. The entire house, except for the kitchen window being open, had all other windows closed. There were no signs of forced entry. Based on the victim's nightgown attire, it fits the characteristics of a crime by an acquaintance. It is speculated that an acquaintance visited that day and the victim was attacked without defense. Afterward, the perpetrator took the weapon away. The victim and the reporter. The victim was named Chiara Poggi, born on March 31st, 1981, in Vigevano, 26 years old, the eldest child in the family, with a younger brother named Marco Poggi. Her parents were Giuseppe Poggi and Rita Preda. 2 years earlier, she graduated from university and was working at a company in Milan. At the time of the incident, her parents and brother were on vacation out of town, leaving her alone at home. The police found the man who called for emergency, named Alberto Stasi, born on July 6, 1983, in Sesto San Giovanni, 24 years old, an economics student at Bocconi University in Milan. The two had been dating for 4 years, with a stable relationship. They kept their relationship low-key, not wanting their parents to know. Therefore, when Chiara's parents were home, Alberto never went there. He was also a resident of the town, less than 2 kilometers from Chiara's house. According to his statement, that morning at 9:45, he called his girlfriend's phone, but no one answered. He thought she hadn't gotten up yet. An hour later, he called again, but still no answer. From 11:15 to 1:30 p.m., he called her mobile and home landline multiple times, but got no response. Knowing her family was away on vacation, he worried something happened to her alone at home, so he drove over to check. Upon arrival, he rang the doorbell, but no one responded. Through the gate, he saw the kitchen window open. Feeling uneasy, he climbed over the gate into the yard. First, he called his girlfriend's name outside the kitchen window, calling several times with no response. Then he went to the front door and found it unlocked. He pushed the door open and entered the house. The house was in disarray. Clearly, something serious had happened. Following the traces on the floor, he went to the basement stairs. There, he found Chiara lying motionless, her face pale. He was terrified by the scene, ran out, and while rushing to the police station, called the emergency center on his mobile. Initial suspicions. The police doubted Alberto's statement. The reason was his shoes looked very clean with no mud on the soles. If he had really been to the crime scene, the soles would have some traces, more or less. It couldn't be so clean unless he changed shoes midway. Additionally, Alberto's claim that his girlfriend's face was pale clearly didn't match the facts, because the victim was face down and covered by hair, making it impossible to see her face. After 17 hours of questioning, Alberto left the police station, but his shoes were confiscated for further analysis. However, the technicians found no traces on his shoes. The next day, August 14, the police extracted a bloody shoe print from inside the house. Measured, the print was size 42, matching Alberto's shoe size. In the toilet sink drain, bloodstains were found, left by the perpetrator during cleaning. On the hand soap dispenser and a pizza box, fingerprints were extracted respectively. The fingerprint on the soap dispenser was complete, belonging to Alberto's index finger. The other fingerprint was incomplete and couldn't be identified. The hair found at the scene was light brown, matching Chiara's hair color, but lacking follicles, DNA couldn't be extracted. The residue under Chiara's fingernails also yielded no valuable information initially. 2 days after the incident, the autopsy report came out. The victim had multiple blunt force injuries. The fatal wound was to the head, speculated to be from a hammer-like tool. The time of death was the morning of August 13. Investigation developments. A week later, the police officially listed Alberto as a suspect. The court issued a search warrant, and police searched Alberto's home, confiscating his 3 cars, 2 bicycles, and a laptop. The laptop was voluntarily handed over by Alberto, said to be used for writing papers. Facing questioning, Alberto stated that his girlfriend's brother and parents were away on vacation, so he stayed at her house for a few days before the incident. They ate pizza together, and he used the toilet soap, so his fingerprints there were not strange. The police tried to find Alberto's motive, but had no evidence of relationship issues. Some informers said their relationship was stable, and they never argued. A neighbor next to Chiara's house provided a clue to the police. On the morning of the incident at 9:10, he saw a black women's bicycle parked outside Chiara's yard gate with a black basket on the front. By 10:20 a.m., the bicycle was gone. The police asked the neighbor if he saw a car parked at Chiara's door that day, as Alberto said he drove there. The neighbor said he didn't see a car. Since there were no surveillance cameras near the scene, it couldn't be confirmed if Alberto rode a bicycle or drove to Chiara's that morning. In fact, Alberto did have a black woman's bicycle, but that bike had no basket on the front, slightly mismatched with the neighbor's description. This bike was not taken by the police. Among the two bicycles confiscated from his home, on the pedal of the burgundy man's bicycle, Chiara's DNA was found. Facing further questioning, Alberto said Chiara had ridden that burgundy bicycle before, possibly accidentally leaving it there. The police thought this explanation was forced because even accidentally, it would only be left on the seat or handlebars, not the pedals. But if Alberto had blood on his shoes after murdering his girlfriend and then rode the bicycle away, it would make sense. A month after the incident, the Vigevano prosecutor's office submitted an arrest application for Alberto to the preliminary judge and got approval. However, just 4 days later, the judge ordered his release due to insufficient evidence. Digital evidence and alarm. According to Alberto himself, on the morning of the incident, he was using his laptop to write a paper. The police's computer experts analyzed it and concluded that the computer was in use from 9:35 a.m. to 12:20 p.m. that day. Notably, the house had a burglar alarm system, which was manually turned off at 9:12 a.m. on the day of the incident. Only residents there could turn it off. Others would trigger the alarm. That day, the others were away traveling, so it could only have been turned off by the victim Chiara herself. The 9:12 a.m. turnoff time became the last time she was proven alive. Unfortunately, key records in Alberto's laptop storage were missing, so it couldn't be determined if the laptop was used from 9:12 to 9:35 a.m. Additionally, although the victim's DNA was extracted from the bicycle pedal, it lacked hemoglobin, so it couldn't be confirmed if it came from blood. Despite not having direct evidence of Alberto committing the crime, the prosecution still charged him with intentional homicide. This was destined to be a complex and lengthy judicial battle. In the subsequent evidence collection, computer experts found a folder on Alberto's laptop containing many explicit photos and videos. Chiara's parents also found a computer engineer, her cousin, who gave a guess. On the morning of the incident, someone used the laptop to upload a photo of Alberto and Chiara at the beach. The user was not Alberto but Chiara, because the photo was marked with the shooting date, which was her habit. After murdering Chiara, Alberto, fearing exposure, took the laptop away, At home, he suddenly found the photo upload record, which could serve as an alibi, so he voluntarily handed over the laptop. A year later, the investigation made some progress. Experts analyzed the bloodstain patterns and distribution in the house and concluded that if Alberto saw the victim lying on the basement stairs, he would have to go to the basement entrance. In this process, no matter how careful, his shoe soles couldn't avoid bloodstains. Italy's judicial system. In Italy, major criminal cases typically use a mixed system handled by the assize court. The court consists of 2 professional judges and 6 lay jurors. Jurors are drawn by lot from ordinary citizens meeting certain requirements. This trial system retains the professionalism of judges while introducing elements of ordinary citizens participating in judicial trials, which is one of the characteristics of Italy's judicial system. In addition to the mixed system, abbreviated trials can also be used. Italy's Criminal Procedure Code provides for abbreviated trials, which can skip preliminary hearings and simplify the trial. The judge makes a judgment based on evidence provided by both sides while retaining the appeal rights of both parties. Abbreviated trials can only be initiated if the defendant explicitly requests it. If ultimately found guilty, his penalty will be reduced by 1/3. Alberto's defense lawyer believed the abbreviated trial was favorable to them, so they requested it from the court and got approval. First instance trial. 2 years later, in December 2009, the case was tried at the Vigevano local court. Defendant Alberto was charged with intentional homicide. Due to the abbreviated trial procedure, only one judge was present to exercise decision-making functions. The prosecution pointed out that the defendant showed abnormality from the beginning during the call with the emergency center. His tone was very calm, not at all like being shocked. He also misremembered the house number of the crime scene. As the victim's boyfriend, making such a low-level error is suspicious. During police questioning, there were multiple contradictions in his words. He said he called the victim's mobile and home landline multiple times that morning, but no one answered. According to clues from the victim's parents, their daughter usually kept her phone on and rarely missed calls unless she was already killed. Moreover, except for the kitchen window, other windows were closed, which was unusual. The daughter rarely slept in and had the habit of opening windows for ventilation after getting up. She might have been murdered right after getting up. The photos and videos in defendant Alberto's laptop might be the root of their conflict. They argued over this, and the situation escalated. After the crime, the defendant didn't hide his tracks and took the computer away from the scene. The crime scene had a lot of bloodstains. If the defendant entered the house that day, his shoe soles would certainly leave traces. The bicycle pedal also had the victim's DNA. The defendant's shoe size matched the scene's shoe print size. In summary, the defendant is the perpetrator. Facing the prosecution's accusations, the defense lawyer said that tone alone doesn't prove anything. Everyone's psychological quality is different, and reactions to emergencies vary. The defendant and victim's relationship was hidden from both parents, so he rarely went to the victim's home unless her parents were away. Not remembering the house number is normal. As for the phone signal, the crime scene is less than 500 meters in a straight line from the police station, very close. And the defendant was walking toward the station when calling. The phone signal being captured by the nearby tower is possible. Chiara didn't answer her boyfriend's calls because they had a small argument the day before. She didn't open the house windows and kept wearing her nightgown. Then she turned off the home alarm as usual. As for the photos and videos in Alberto's laptop, they don't represent anything. It's just his personal hobby, and their relationship was stable with no evidence of conflict over this. According to the computer expert report, the defendant was indeed using the laptop to write a paper that morning. He turned on the computer at 9:35 a.m., opened a folder to browse photos a minute later, closed it after 10 minutes. At 9:57 a.m., he opened an image editor, uploaded a beach photo with his girlfriend, and marked the photo date. At 10:05 a.m., he started watching videos, opened a paper folder 12 minutes later, and worked until 12:20 p.m. The shoes didn't get stained because the victim died that morning, as confirmed by the autopsy report. The defendant arrived at the scene in the afternoon, several hours later, so the blood had dried and not staining the shoes is normal. As for the matching shoe size, it's just a coincidence. There's no evidence it was left by him. The defense lawyer then proposed that this was a burglary case. The perpetrator tricked the victim into opening the door, and during the robbery, the victim resisted desperately and was silenced. This view was naturally refuted by the police because, according to the investigation, there were no traces of intrusion at the scene, and no valuables were lost. This speculation is baseless. After a period of trial, the court made a verdict. Defendant Alberto not guilty of intentional homicide, released in court, December 17, 2009. Appeals and retrials. The prosecution disagreed with the verdict and appealed to the appellate court. 2 years later, on December 7, 2011, the Milan Appellate Court tried the case and issued a not guilty verdict. The prosecution disagreed and appealed to Italy's Supreme Court, reasoning procedural issues in the appellate court. In Italy's judicial system, the Supreme Court's duty is mainly to review the application of law and procedural norms, not to retry case facts. The Supreme Court has the power to revoke previous verdicts and remand for retrial or directly rule. After comprehensive review, the Supreme Court on April 18, 2013, found issues with the appellate court, making it hard to reach a consistent, credible, reasonable, not guilty verdict. Thus, it revoked defendant Alberto's not guilty verdict and remanded to the appellate court for retrial. The Supreme Court ordered retesting of the hair found at the scene and the residue under the victim's nails. Before the retrial, the prosecution needed to re-examine the victim's time of death, bloodstains, biological traces on the bicycle pedal, and fingerprints on the toilet soap dispenser to ensure all evidence is fully proven. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court required defendant Alberto to hand over his black women's bicycle for comparison with the bicycle seen by the witness on the morning of the incident. Ultimately, the tests on hair and nail residue had no breakthroughs. The witness couldn't confirm Alberto's black women's bicycle was the one seen that morning. During the investigation, the prosecution discovered that the bicycle pedal with Chiara's DNA was not original, confirmed by the manufacturer. The pedal might come from another women's bicycle at Chiara's home. Additionally, experts simulated Alberto's walking path at the scene and concluded that even if the bloodstains were dry, they would certainly stain. The probability of no stains is 0.00038%. If walking to the basement stairs, the probability is even lower. 7 years after the incident, on December 17, 2014, the case was retried at the Milan Appellate Court. Based on computer simulation conclusions and many contradictions in Alberto's previous statements, the court ruled defendant Alberto guilty of intentional homicide, sentenced to 24 years imprisonment. Due to the abbreviated trial, his sentence can be reduced by 1/3 to 16 years imprisonment. Upon the verdict, Albert hugged his mother and sobbed. After the province, Albert disagreed with the verdict and appealed to the Supreme Court. The prosecution also appealed, thinking 16 years was too light and should be heavier. In Italy, ordinary homicide penalties can be up to life imprisonment. On December 12, 2015, the Supreme Court reviewed and ruled to uphold the appellate court's 16-year imprisonment sentence. The Supreme Court didn't clarify his motive, but all evidence pointed to him, like fragments undoubtedly forming his crime picture. After imprisonment, Alberto was interviewed by reporters. Facing the camera, he said, "My conscience is clear. Those who say I killed Chiara don't know what they're talking about. I was acquitted at first instance, acquitted or appeal. The only conviction, the Supreme Prosecutor's prosecutor even said Alberto can't be convicted." Post-trial developments. During the appeal period, Alberto's defense lawyer appealed to the European Court of Human Rights, but got no result until it was rejected on December 12, 2023, and finally on February 7, 2025. In December 2016, a new test report was submitted. The residue under Chiara's nails contained a male's DNA belonging to Andrea Sempio, a friend of Chiara's brother, Marco Poggi. Investigators launched a new probe into Sempio. He liked cycling out, and his shoe size matched the scene's print. Sempio said he often went to Chiara's house to play, so his DNA under her nails wasn't strange. The shoe size was coincidental. Sempio provided an alibi for the day, but investigators found doubts. On December 23, 2016, the Milan prosecutor's office approved the retrial request, finding sufficient reasons, and transferred the case to the Brescia Appellate Court. A year later, the investigation ended and Sempio was released. After the appeal, Chiara's family filed a civil lawsuit against Alberto, demanding €1 million. Before imprisonment, Alberto, under his lawyer's advice, voluntarily waived inheritance rights to family property, so he had nothing and couldn't compensate. After negotiation, Chiara's family and Alberto reached an agreement for €700,000 compensation, 2018 half paid. Due to good behavior in prison from 2023, Alberto, now 42, has been granted semi-liberty, allowed to leave Bollate prison during the day to work as an accountant. With all income used to compensate Chiara's family, he is still repaying gradually to this day. Despite Alberto's conviction, public opinion on the case remains divided. Some side with the judiciary, believing he is guilty. Others think evidence is insufficient. Alberto is innocent, and the real culprit is someone else. Recent updates as of December 9, 2025. The case was reopened in March 2025 following forensic analysis of previously untested DNA evidence. On March 11, 2025, Andrea Sempio was served a new notice of investigation for conspiracy to commit murder. In March 2025, a hammer was found in the Tremello Canal near the uninhabited house of the Kappa family, Chiara's cousin's grandmother's property, dredged by firefighters and civil protection on orders from the Pavia prosecutor's office, potentially the murder weapon, though caution is advised due to its generic nature and the 18 years past. A witness claims seeing a woman throw a metal object into the canal, a lead not explored before. The Kappa twins are not suspects. In May 2025, a new expert report attributed a fingerprint trace 33 at the crime scene on the basement stairs wall next to Chiara's body to Andrea Sempio's palm using modern dactyloscopic techniques. Investigators believe Sempio was present at the house. Additional elements include DNA under the victim's nails and notes by Sempio, detailing his movements on the day, recovered from trash. On September 26, 2025, former prosecutor Mario Vendetti was investigated in Brescia for corruption, allegedly offered or hypothesized payment of money, 20 to 30,000 euros, from Sempio's family to close the case in 2017. Searches were conducted at Vendetti's homes in Pavia, Genoa, and Campione d'Italia, and Sempio's family homes. There were unusual contacts between Sempio and police, possibly related to negotiations. The evidentiary incident was extended by 70 days on September 26, 2025, as requested by experts, geneticist Denise Albani and dactyloscopic expert Domenico Marchigiani. On December 4, 2025, ANSA reported that the DNA under Chiara's nails is compatible with moderate to strong likelihood to the Sempio lineage, but not reliable for individual identification, insufficient to confirm it belongs to Sempio specifically. Additionally, there is a profile from an unknown male, unknown to, not matching Sempio, Stasi, or Marco Poggi's friends. On December 8, 2025, the weekly OG republished Old Neighbor Testimonies. Chiara was docile but could be aggressive if teased. Her relationship with Alberto was intense, with shared studies and plans. Sempio's presence was noted. The next hearing is December 18, 2025, to discuss the report and decide. Judge Daniela Garlaschelli. Chiara's family's lawyer stated they are shocked again, and after 9 months, the reopening lacks progress, emphasizing only Stasi's DNA on a trash bin is certain. The case remains under investigation, with no new conclusions, and continues to spark controversy in Italy.